Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Akil, and for today's episode, we cover resiliency as well as cybersecurity. The more resilient you are, the more adaptable you'll be, which is exactly what you need when it comes to cybersecurity. But how do you grow that skill? That is resiliency. Joining me today is Nyota Gordon, who is a resiliency and adaptability coach, and I love the energy she brings to the table. I'll put all the links to her socials in the description below. Check her out, and with that being said, enjoy the episode.
Beyond coding.
I've noticed that when I work out first and foremost, my mind is clear, and when I do not have that, it's a bit cluttered, especially in the morning. So I miss it when I don't do it.
Yeah, I tell people my walk is not for me. My walk is for them.
Mm.
Like,
I like that.
yeah,
Uh,
like makes me a better person. Like I'm just better. I'm just better. Like and when I'm walking, I'm so smart. Like I'm so crispy.
yeah,
Like it's good. But when I don't have that walk, I'm like, I don't know, whatever you like.
yeah,
Like yeah,
exactly.
I guess.
I
Like that's
I
the answer to
recognize that.
everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
recognize that as well. I catch myself, and I'm like, man, I was sharp that morning. Like that was some good stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I was like, I'm streaming God because I'm not that smart. Like, like,
Apparently, you are. You can't say I'm not that smart, but then still do that. Yeah.
I know when you're streaming like that, though, you're like, what? Or like, have you ever like listened back to yourself, like when you were in flow and
Mhm.
you're like, what?
I'm like, what is this
That was
knowledge?
good.
Yeah,
Crazy.
exactly. Uh, so what do you do
Love that.
on a more day-to-day basis right now? Is it like full into cybersecurity? Is it more like consulting or
Yeah, right now, I'm kind of in, I've been in the consulting space working more with one-on-one with people when they're doing like getting their resiliency together.
yeah.
Um, and I'm actually considering going back to work. Okay, wait, hear me
Mm.
out. Because people are like, what work? So I'm actually considering to go back to a 9 to 5 because I don't have the conversation or the energy of the workplace.
Okay.
So I don't, as a consultant, I still don't have that experience as what my peers and my managers and my direct reports are experiencing.
Okay. Interesting.
And so I can't get it. Like I know of it, but I can't fully translate, I think, how to fully serve
Mm.
everyone when I'm not in it.
Yeah, when you're more on the
So
outside.
yeah, so I'm considering going back to work just so I can, present the full experience so I can like serve all the way.
Yeah.
I know.
Which
People are
is
like, you're
for
crazy.
my view then, because I do a 9 to 5, but then I am in a
Mhm,
consultancy firm. So I do go to clients and I do kind of get both sides ish.
mhm, mhm,
Obviously, more of the managerial stuff within my own company with regards to unit and quarterly meetings, stuff like that. And then the
mhm,
client side is actually the work that we do. But then
mhm.
in your case, you can't do that. You can't go to a client and like be part of in a team that way, or you miss more of the, I guess, the business side of things.
I miss more of the workplace shenanigans.
Yeah.
And it's the workplace shenanigans that feeds or do not feed into the productivity.
Yeah.
It's the workplace shenanigans that builds relationships and builds rapport, right? It's the we all hate this manager together that pulls us together. That workplace dynamic is also part of your cybersecurity framework. It's also part of your systems.
Yeah.
And so how people engage with each other on a day-to-day basis also reflects within the workplace system. So I can't that shenanigans part, I
Yeah.
can't I can't get it from, over here.
I get what you mean. I think
Yeah.
I miss it a lot, especially when you lay it out like that, because I recognize I had a lot of it, especially
Mhm.
pre-COVID. And then since everyone went remote, that has slowed down. Also, people left, so probably that has a lot to do with it. But that bond that you form when you're in an office, probably a lot of days a week, just talking to each other in and out of work. on and off of work, about work and not about work. I think that's the one I was
Mhm.
seeking. But you form those bonds way more easily than remote, because remote you have to forcefully be like, okay, I'm gonna talk, and usually when you do talk, it's efficient and it's as fast as possible, and it's only about work. You would have to go outside of your routine and be like, no, 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 this is a call to be like, hey, how are you doing? And let's get to know each other, because otherwise it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I just feel like that dynamic
Mm.
is important. It's important, and so I can understand why companies are like, no,
Yeah,
you need to come to work. So I understand that, but then I understand from the employee perspective, like, I'm more productive at home.
exactly.
Why do I have to spend all of this gas to get to work, right?
Yeah,
Like, so I understand both sides, but from that employer perspective, you're missing something in the productivity. You're missing something in the full experience of what the workplace can be
yeah,
because the people aren't there.
exactly. I think it mostly, there's a lot of reports that come out and they're like, productivity has been fine and turnover has decreased and stuff like that when we went fully remote, or when we allowed companies or people to work from anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, but you're just kind of one case. Like, what happens with smaller companies? That connection is way more important than when you're humongous, because then already that distance is way more prevalent. So then if it's
Yes.
remote, maybe it's not as big of a deal. But I really appreciate being next to colleagues. And I love that we have the option of balancing it out, right? I can be in office or out of office um, for my needs, right? And for what the team needs, or for when we have a new person and we onboard them. It's way better if we have the option to go into an office. Because, yeah, otherwise that bond never actually fully establishes. And then
Right.
you're just like video game friends. I used to have those. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, it's like my mastermind friends, or
Yeah.
right, like, and you miss. I mean, we're tribal,
Mm.
right? We're tribal. We're meant to be together,
Yeah.
and so yes, this is a good fill in, but nothing compares to
Yeah. The real thing.
being able to, yeah, or like feel that energy of another person. I'm like actually like feeling the energy of not just through the screen. So the workplace benefits. Gosh, I'm going on. Wait, you said you're recording,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I'm going on the record saying that coming to work, right? It just makes for a better work experience because if you're spending time at work anyway, it may as well be, and maybe there's a hybrid solution,
Yeah.
right? But that in person, it's important to me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I hope when you said hybrid solution, I hope that's going to be the eventual thing we move towards, right? That you still have the feeling of shenanigans, but then in kind of your own
Yeah,
home, either in a virtual environment or whatever solution we come up next. But
yeah.
jumping in a car, jumping in public transport, in my case, for an hour to go back and forth, which is 2 hours. Yeah. I can't believe I used to do that.
You know, you're when you look back on things that you used to do and you're
Yeah.
like, what? Or why don't I do that anymore? Right.
Yeah.
So that looking back, that's why that whole hindsight 2020, like you can see so clearly, you're like, why would I do that?
Yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, I mean the future's here, and we're moving on.
Do it again.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do it again. You do it again though, because they'll slowly erode away the freedoms of remote working, and you'll just be back in the office pretty
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah,
soon.
we'll see. I think the tech industry, especially the people, have a lot of power, and if the people want to work remote, some companies will offer that, and those people will trend towards the companies that offer that. It's a nice benefit, right? A company being like, well, we can't actually pay stellar salaries, but you can work from anywhere, which means
And
any country. Pick any country. That'd be cool.
as
Uh,
long as they have that fast internet connection, so you can be in this meeting.
Exactly. You better dial in. Yeah. Because otherwise you're
Yeah.
lost somewhere. Uh, But I was wondering, so I looked you up on LinkedIn and it says something like resiliency coach. What does that mean to you when we're talking resilience?
Oh man, I look at resiliency as an opportunity to be the best version of ourselves. And what I mean by that is we're strong and agile.
Mm.
We're able to listen and speak.
Yeah.
We're able to take a punch, dodge a punch, and deliver a punch. Right? It's not about being able to keep getting kicked when you're down, because
Okay.
that's not it. It's not about being able to take on a lot of pressure from home, a lot of pressure from work, a lot of pressure from friends, a lot of pressure from family finances. It's not just that. It's being able to receive those, understand, okay, I'm having these challenges at home,
Yeah.
and they're translating, and I'm bringing these issues to work with me. So it's being able to recognize that and be like, okay, well, what can I do about that? How do I repair myself in this moment?
Yeah.
Right? How do I stitch myself up? You're still going to have that scar of where you're human, but then you're able to like not go back to that place and then move forward. And you're like, no, no, no. And then remember, the last time I wasn't getting sleep, 4 nights in a row, you know, I was falling apart at home, at work, and in my relationship. So that's what it's like about being resilient. It's about being able to learn, being able to grow, and then being able to mindfully understand where you are in that moment.
Yeah.
So and so I think being resilient is like it's a tree in the wind, right? You're
Yeah.
planted, you're agile, you can dodge, you can flow. That's what I feel resiliency is. It's a verb.
Yeah. It's very interesting because I mean, it might sound kind of, I don't know what the English word is for this, too prideful, but I do see myself as resilient, but I recognize times where I wasn't, right? And
Mm.
I also recognize that not everyone is like that. I think it has a lot to do with how you were raised or the things that you faced in your life, because there's a lot of challenges that I went through my upbringing. Um, and I think they have made me more resilient. And I think everyone kind of has their personal experience with that, insofar that I think resiliency is a skill that we all can get kind of better at. Except besides life experiences or maybe like meditation and mindfulness, I don't know how you would kind of cultivate or grow that skill, because to me it seems very much experience based.
Well, it's a decision.
Mm.
Like anything else. You talk about, it the rough parts of growing up, or the rough parts of adulting,
Yeah.
right? The rough parts of being, in that toxic work environment. And so we get to decide, and I think that's where the resiliency part also comes from.
Yeah.
We get to decide whether we're going to use that experience to judge and be angry and oh, I had a poor upbringing, so you need to feel sorry for me.
Mm.
Or I had a bad upbringing, so you should understand that I'm mean. Well, we get to decide every day who we are.
Yeah.
I'm a different person from just this morning. I'm a different person from the time we got on this call because we get to engage with each other.
Yeah.
So, what we get to decide to do is, are we going to be better than we were 5 minutes ago? Right? Are we going to be better than we were a moment ago? And I think that's what feeds into that space, that skill of being resilient, of being open to grow, being open to change, and being open to other people's ability to grow and change in these same circles that we overlap with each other. I think it's a decision. Everything is a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. I've never heard those words like I came from a certain upbringing, so you should treat me like this, or I'm just a mean person because that's who I am. So be mindful about that. I maybe it's my personality. I stick to myself, and I'm like, I choose how to react to stuff. I'm not gonna force others people to reaction on me based on who I am. But I do recognize what you're saying, that other people don't have that. Except I have no clue where it comes from. Is it a piece of the unknown that I know and they don't, or is it like Why do people kind of project their own insecurities and stuff on others in that way?
I I do believe part of it is the people that you decide to hang around
Mm.
also, right? Like my dad, I grew up and my dad smoked my whole life.
Yeah.
Like in elementary, I smelled like cigarettes, like my whole life. Um, Even when my dad came to visit me in 2003 when I lived in the Netherlands, we're at the airport and my dad is outside of the airport smoking when I go to pick him up.
Yeah.
But I don't smoke,
Yeah.
right? That could have went either way. Well, my dad smoked my whole life, so I smoke.
Yeah.
But it also was like my dad smoked my whole life. I'm certainly not smoking.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's what, it's a decision. I don't want to smell like cigarettes. I don't want to. I don't want,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Me
know,
neither. I like that we have the
yeah,
decision. First of all, the decision making process that we get to decide for ourselves, right? That we have the freedom to do so in most cases. Problem is when it's out of our control, a lot of the times we still can fixate on it, right? Because I love being in control of my own stuff. If something happens and I don't have control over it, but I do feel either attached to it or accountable or responsible, right? Because if you have a great amount of responsibility, if you feel responsible or have that feeling easily, you will get attached to something which is out of your control. And it might bring you down if you choose to let it. And a lot of people choose to let it, which is not conscious, right? It's just being
yeah,
part of the day to day, I think.
yeah. And all I can visualize is like you're standing there talking, and then out of nowhere, the person you're talking to like sweeps your leg,
Yeah.
and then you just go down, and you're like, what? I thought we were cool, right? Right? And like that's how we are in situations. You're like, I thought I was a great employee. I thought I was performing well. And then next thing you know, you're like, you don't work here anymore. You're like, wait, what
Yeah.
happened? Right?
Uh,
Right?
exactly. Everything comes
Life,
falling
life,
down.
yeah, life will sweep your leg. But the ability to be able to people like it's not even about just hopping right back up,
Mm.
like laying down there for a second and be like, wait, what happened? Right?
The
And then you're
realization.
like, right, you're like, oh, I wasn't doing a great job.
Yeah.
I'm not a great employee. Now I have an opportunity to, get some skills, stack some skills, phone a friend, get a therapist, or like whatever, But that point of like life will sweep your leg,
Yeah.
and it does. That's what life does. It sweeps your leg, like it just does.
Yeah. I can think about a lot of times that happened for sure. But then still, it's
Yeah,
right. If we're talking about building resiliency, we get to decide a lot of things, right? So you can decide if it affects you or not. But it's still, to me, it boils down to a lot of experience, right? Because a lot of things you have to experience before you're like, okay, so this is what I first of all did. And then you can reflect on that and be like, well, am I happy with that? Or am I going to change it or try to change it in the future?
yeah. And you were talking about upbringing. So like my dad, he used to my dad, how they had the show Kids Say the Darndest Things? No, my dad said the darndest things. But one of the things, I mean, there are so many things. Like my dad was very athletic and I wasn't, which
Yeah.
was weird because I was in the military for a long time. He had to teach me how to run. He had to teach me how to do push-ups. I didn't do any of that stuff in high school. Like I was, class president and, you know, future business leaders of America. Like I did that kind of stuff in high school. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't athletic at all. But my dad would say, you can run back or you can walk back,
Mm,
but you have to get back.
exactly. You choose how.
Right? Your car is over there. You have to get back. And so in that decision, are you going to run? Are you going to walk? Are you going to crawl? But whatever it is, You have to get back. So that process of getting back, that you can go back with joy, you can go back with unhappiness, you can go back with bitterness,
Yeah.
you can go back skipping, but you got to get back to the car. So
Yeah.
you just decide, you get to decide, like, make it miserable or make it awesome, but you got to get back to the car.
Yeah. That's very interesting. It made me think of, because I'm writing a bit more, so I'm also writing things that have happened to me in my past. But I was very junior in operations and I completely messed up. So I destroyed something in productions. I'll spare you the details. But then obviously I was trying to fix it before anyone would notice. And all of a sudden then my phone rang. And yeah, that feeling of dread you get and you really don't want to pick up the phone, that was me in that moment. And I was like, actually, the thing I wanted most was to just run away and forget it ever happened. I was like, that's never gonna fly. Like, I have to actually face this phone call and this person on the other end. This is something I have to do, and I can choose how to combat it. I can be like, I don't know what happened. That wasn't me, even though they absolutely. I mean, someone's calling me for a reason. So I picked up the phone and I was like, yeah, this is what happened. Like I completely fucked up. I owned up to it because I thought that would be the best way of confronting it, right? Facing the mess I had made. And luckily, really luckily, I was in an environment where that was safe, where they were like, okay, I'll fix it. I'll swing by later. And I was like, what kind of punishment am I going to get? And they were like, nothing, nothing, right? Because everyone makes mistakes. And that
Yeah.
was such a relief. I learned that on really early in my career. And I do my best to pay it forward when it happens to someone, because it will happen to someone or to myself again, right? We're
Yeah.
not made to be perfect. We make mistakes. We get back up and we learn and continue because that's all we can do.
Yeah, and look at that compassion and that empathy, in the workplace.
Yeah.
And so imagine what that does to and for the loyalty of the employees, the try, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're like, I'm going to always try for them because they could have easily fired me in that moment,
Yeah.
right? And
Exactly.
the fact that you're like, I am going to face this. Like it's the it's the only way. Like
It was the
it
only option.
it's the only way. It
uh,
never gets better. It never gets better. Like if you wait or I'll tell them tomorrow or it never gets better. Right.
exactly.
I mean, how many times have I messed up, right? I can't even I can't even count that high. Like I'm a person, but when you look back, on those experiences, like now you're going to use that as part of your leadership, as part of how you engage with other people, giving people grace, right?
Yeah.
No one's saying like, oh, keep messing up because we know that we'll
No.
get grace, but that's not it. But the fact that like people know that you're human and people want to work for you and with you when you're that kind of person,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It helps create that unity that you hopefully want both as a company as well as an employee, right? Being part and doing something that is greater than you or that you're doing with other people, because that's the only way to do it, right? We need collaboration, and as you say, we're kind of tribal people. We're animals and we're social animals, and we want that social part in whatever we're doing.
Yeah, like I want you to laugh when I want you to laugh. I want you to be sad with me when I want you to be sad for me. I want you to, when I'm trying to figure something out, I want you to also be trying to help me figure it out. Like
Yeah,
I want to help you figure it out, right? Like I want to enjoy and enjoy is a heavy word, right? But I want to at least learn, from the experiences when I'm with other people. Like I
exactly.
want our worlds to collide, right? And then I want to take a little bit of what I got from you and knowingly or unknowingly pass that on, the goodness of that person to the next person. But we also get to be mindful of like, are you passing on just the good things?
Yeah,
Or are you passing on the bad things also?
yeah, exactly. And now
Yeah.
I'm reflecting more and more. I'm a project because I'm a consultant, and now I'm working on a project which is more by myself. Uh,
Mm-mm.
and now I recognize what you're saying, that I don't get to take from other people. Well, take is maybe not the best word, but have that collaboration with other people and then pay it forward to others. by having learned and by having had that experience, I really like working in a team.
Yeah.
Really like learning from each other, teaching others as well, because that you get better because of that, and having that form of friendship and collaboration that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah. I'll go to work often. I was, I'm retired. I get, disability and everything. So I really don't have to go to work, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I was in this space of like, what is wrong with me? And I
Mm.
got a job at Southwest Airlines because I needed to be a part of a team. I needed to be part of a bigger mission because I wasn't working in my own business then.
Yeah.
So I needed to be a part of something. I needed to be pulled and pushed and, you know, just a part of something bigger than me. So it's super important. We may not think, oh, I need to be a part of a bigger mission, but we need to have like something that pulls and pushes us, whether we call that our mission, our purpose, what God puts in you, what your parents put in you, wherever it comes from.
Yeah.
We have to have something bigger, or I just what's it all worth?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I went to a talk on dedicated teams, I think last Tuesday. And the
Mhm.
single thing that stuck with me the most is teams that have purpose, that know
Yeah.
what they stand for, because through that they can derive a lot of things, right? If we really need to do this, what are the skills we need? Once you have the skills, what are the people we need? Because those people need to have those skills. Where does a responsibility start and where does it end? And does that even make sense for the purpose that we're doing it for? Once that is clear, crystal clear to a team, plus a lot of other things, don't get me wrong, but that's how you get that dedicated team then as well.
Yeah, and then just even sitting down at the beginning and having that conversation to, really reinforce that like your opinion in this matters, your feedback matters. Like even just that, being open to have this conversation is like, is this even something that we should be working on?
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh God, I thought you would never ask. This is so stupid." Right?
Yeah.
So like that part also pulls a team together and pulls them forward.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, we talked about resiliency and I know you're big into cybersecurity, but I never know how you actually got into that space in the first place. Could you share a little bit about how you got into that?
For sure. When I was in high school, we have these programs where you can go to work and you still get a grade for it.
Nice.
So of course I'm going to do that because I get a grade and I get paid.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a win-win.
come on. So I end up working at this oil company, and I worked in the MIS department, Management Information Systems department.
Yeah.
So I was like the, receptionist, I guess, but they like would take you through, and you're like, they're talking about like local area networks, and they're putting the computers together and NIC cards, and I was like, what is this? What in the world? And like knowing that like this computer is connected to this computer and it's all connected, and then, we're all communicating because these computers are connected through this little cable
Mm.
that I plugged in. I was like, this is everything. This is everything. And what's interesting is like I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to go to law school at the time.
Okay.
But I was like, I don't want to go. I want to do this.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and that's how it started. It started there. It started in high school.
Yeah. How did you transition into specifically cybersecurity though? Because you could have been like, okay, I'm gonna do systems or I'm gonna work at a data center or like could have gone anywhere. But you ended up in cybersecurity specifically.
So I ended up joining the military
Yeah.
as a paralegal.
You still the law direction? I didn't know that.
So I was a paralegal for the Army for 13 years.
Okay.
But I'd already had this background of, knowing what to do with computers, knowing how to, I mean, because once you get the skill of like, well, first just look at what you're doing,
Mm.
right? And then you're like, and then you just kind of, okay, it's not this. it's not that I didn't know all the things. I learned that in high school, but I was the smart IT person in as a paralegal,
Yeah.
and and so, but I also loved doing the legals because I love like policy and procedures, SOPs. Like I love that kind of, you know, I love that sort of thing.
Nice.
So I was going to become a warrant officer because that person is the IT person in the office.
Mm.
And so I was going to become a warrant officer. Um, but then the fact of the matter is I had a really grimy boss. He was like disgusting.
Really?
Like, oh man, he was grimy. Like I got my tongue pierced and we weren't supposed to have any of that stuff. I'm in the whole army.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the army. And he was like one day he was like, so Sergeant Gordon, I was Sergeant Gordon then.
Yeah.
I haven't seen your tongue piercing in a while. Stick your tongue out.
Wait, what now? Yeah.
What? What?
Who does that? That's insane.
Grimy people do that.
Yeah, apparently.
So I went in the hallway, immediately took out my piercing,
Yeah.
and decided never to be a warrant officer, and I'm leaving the entire JAG Corps.
Yeah,
Right?
get the hell away from that. Yeah.
Just like that. And so I end up going to officer candidate school,
Mm.
going to become a signal officer.
Okay.
And so that's communications. That's, using the generators to connect to the radios to do all that. So it was IT. It
Mm.
was all the things. It was connecting computers. It was all the things. It was not fun. It wasn't just SOP. It was just all of it. Like it
Yeah.
was just all of it. And then I had an opportunity to become a information systems manager officer. Like you could specialize in that. And so that's
Nice.
when we're doing like information assurance and, making sure the updates are on the network and you're working at the enterprise level. And I was like, I'm home.
Order.
I'm
Yeah.
home. I'm home. So that's how it was back and forth there. But
Yeah.
and even I still think, do I want to go to law school? Because I always wanted to do it once I realized that it's, IT and information management and cybersecurity, it's how, it's basically intellectual property,
Yeah.
who, who does it belong to? It's on the internet. Like it was on the internet. Like who, like, what does that mean when it comes from a legal perspective? What does that mean when someone starts a virus, kind of like how they do with the CDC,
Yeah.
and to go back and research that to see where the origin of it was, and then how do we prevent that, or how do we reward that, so whatever that is, like that's still super interesting to me.
Yeah. I love how those words eventually they can collide, right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
digital has become huge, and then law is
yeah,
always going to be there no matter what we do. And then you have that tiny niche that's kind of cross domain in both of those, which brings it together. But I
yeah.
love that you were like, at first I want to do this, and then you had the most horrible example and experience with it. You're like, forget that. I'm gonna try something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is nasty. I
exactly.
don't want to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
But when we're talking cybersecurity, one of the things is I think a lot of things early on, technical wise, were a lot more easier to breach. But as we have matured, also as an industry, I think there's a lot of guardrails now on a technical level, which means the only level we have left is more of the people level, which kind of ties back into resiliency that way as well. How do those two worlds
yeah.
kind of collide?
It's like you said. So like you're like, okay, so now we know that we can update our physical security, right?
Yeah,
We put gates up. We have all kinds of alarm systems. We have you know cameras with the doorbells, right? We have all of these things now,
yeah,
and then you're like, okay, got that together. Check. Oh, and I'll put a guard out there just in case, right? Check. Right. And then you're like, okay, so now it's our software, right? To make sure that we don't have this experience again. but sometimes you still have to have that vulnerability or that, that breach to know, oh, like, let's fix our software, let's fix this software firewall so no one can get in this way again, right? You will not come this way again.
Yeah.
But that means the person has to keep a person has to also keep that software updated,
Yeah.
right? Person. Oh no, but that's okay, because then we still have our routers and we still have our switches. Oh, but we still need people to maintain those routers and those switches,
Yeah.
right? They do what we tell them to do, right? Software
Exactly.
does what we tell it to do. The walls, the gates, all of that they do what we tell it to do. But when it comes back to people, we don't do what you tell us to
It's not
do.
that simple.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't. And sometimes we feel like doing what you tell us to do, but most times we don't.
Yeah.
And it shows up in our infrastructures. It shows up in, getting socially engineered again and again and again. You know, even when I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, and he was telling me he read an article
Mm.
that even when people get our cybersecurity training,
Yeah.
right, our annual training that we have every year, we have to have it. You're clicking it, you know the answers already, right? And then they later on in the day, your IT department, they send out that phishing email, right, where they can track to see who's clicking the links,
Yeah.
who's opening
A
up,
little
who's
bait.
forwarding, who's doing all of that. People still click.
Yeah.
People still forward. Even if they just came out of the training, they still click.
That's crazy.
And that's one that we're monitoring.
Yeah.
That's one that you see. So people aren't necessarily learning from the training,
Yeah.
right? They're not actually digesting that learning. It's not personal. They're not mindful when they're having that training. And
Yeah.
so there's a couple of things there, right? Like, and you don't want to say people aren't being properly punished, because I mean, we don't want to say punished,
Exactly.
even if that's what I'm thinking, but they're not being properly made aware of what the impact is,
Mm.
right? When you're not mindful and these emails are coming and you're clicking this link, this school, like, right, North Carolina, they had a whole ransom experience because of clicks, right?
Yeah.
It ends up costing, schools, organizations millions of dollars to either decide if they're going to pay the ransom
Yeah.
and still not get all of their data, all of their information back, right?
Yeah.
Or you just like, I'm not going to pay the ransom, like how we did here in Tulsa. Our water department was compromised, the data, all that stuff, and they didn't pay the
Okay.
ransom. And so that's still millions of dollars, because now you have to rebuild everything. You still have to recreate everything.
Yeah.
And we, for the city of Tulsa, we as regular citizens are paying the cost, because you see all of these fees and taxes added on to our water bill. So I think when people don't say this happened and now that happened, they're not mindful, they're not responsible
Yeah.
to know that, like, you're being a detriment to not just the cybersecurity framework and the system, and like, where else are you doing this in your life?
Yeah. Exactly. It's
Because
the thing that's interesting is that, and I've heard this before, you say it starts with awareness, right? If someone doesn't feel responsible or accountable, it might be because they don't know. At least that's me personally. If I know what is happening, I feel responsible because I know, right? If you told me, I can't say I don't know because you just told me, especially to you. So then I feel responsible for acting accordingly, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you know the theory of what happens, if you know the risks involved, it's weird that you can actually put it to practice. Maybe there's a disconnect in like the risk factor that people are like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. That's like one in a million. It's like winning the lottery. Am I going to win the lottery? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's more of the chances of losing the lottery,
Yeah,
right? It's gonna happen. You're gonna click. You're going to forget your password. You're going to not engage the two-factor authentication even on our cell phones.
yeah.
You're you're gonna get got. And
I
that's
like
just
I
what it
like how you flipped it. Like you will lose
yeah.
the lottery. Uh,
You will have a cybersecurity incident. You're going to
exactly.
have it in the workplace. You're going to have it at home. You're going to have it. Period.
Yeah, it just depends on your own level of how do you say that? I guess resilience in that way. What the impact is going to be, right?
Yeah.
If
And
you,
then how do you recover?
yeah, because how would one recover? Because you're talking about, let's say there's a data breach and people are asking for a ransom. Normally you would have backups, I'm assuming, right? So you would be like, well, we actually have the stuff already.
And that too is one of the biggest problems, right?
Mm,
Organization systems, people, right? Me,
yeah,
regular old Nyota, not cybersecurity Nyota, but just regular old Nyota, not backing up,
yeah,
right? And so that ends up costing millions of dollars. And then there's another cost associated.
yeah,
So now you're carrying this blame at why didn't I back up, right?
yeah,
And so why didn't I do this? Why I was gonna go back, right? So like there's monetary cost, but then there's these other costs. And I'm saying costs, not investment, like how we think of money. Like
yeah,
these are costs, right? And so that lack of just that's why like you see so many organizations trying to do mindfulness in the workplace.
yeah,
So you're like present at work, right? Because now you have this, and I say opportunity to go back and you have to, you know, where did we go wrong?
yeah,
Right? So you get to analyze like, oh, it's people again, right? It's clicks again,
yeah,
right? It's not following the policies and procedures that we created and put in place again, so you're like, and then so you're back to this place. How do we get people to be mindful, as the foundation of this resiliency in the workplace when it comes to our employees and our systems? How do we get back to this place? And when you look in organizations like Google and Athena, and they're talking about how their work, how their employees and their systems and just their overall productivity has grown because of this mindfulness in the workplace. People meditating. Okay, so maybe meditating sounds scary,
hmm,
right? So people taking a moment when they sit down at their computer before they get their day started, coming off of the water cooler where you if you're in the workplace and you're kikiing with Jane and Jim and Joe at the water cooler, and you're thinking of the conversation in your head, you're kind of distracted, but you come back to your computer, right? And this is the same at home. You're having a kiki conversation, you're flirting with your partner, you're back into now it's time to work and you're not focused on work.
yeah,
To take that moment, you're like, what am I getting ready to do?
exactly.
And breathe into it and center yourself into what you're getting ready to do. To get people to do that moment of awareness, that moment of present, and making themselves present. Um, People don't necessarily want to do it.
Yeah, I like that a
Like,
lot, and I don't think I do it myself. Yeah,
hmm,
the I
yeah,
mean, breathing in and of its own is very powerful, but when you're in a routine, I mean, I live in Amsterdam. Everything there is go go go, whether you're walking or on a bike. But then time flies by, right? The busier you are, the faster time goes by. I've noticed that when I slow down and when I'm more in the moment, when I take out my podcast or my music or whatever, when I drop my phone, I'm like, okay, things are moving a lot slower now. Yeah, and I'm a bit more
Yeah.
calm. I can focus on my breathing, my posture, and center myself in a way I otherwise wouldn't have. But you're right, it doesn't come automatically.
No. And it's like, and so a lot of work, a lot of people in the workplace, like those managers, those CEOs of division, all of those people, like we're in this place in how the world is moving along. We don't want to rock the boat with our employees.
Mm.
We don't want, like, you don't want to say, oh, I want to tell Nyota that she needs to take a moment and breathe. But Nyota might say, oh, you're just trying to tell me what to do because I'm a Black woman in the workplace, and now you're trying to make me breathe. Like, I think people are just scared to do anything.
Yeah,
Oh, you're against me because I'm a non-binary, or you're against me. Like, I'm not.
it's
I'm
not
not
an attack
against you.
here. Yeah, exactly.
I'm for you. I just want you to take a moment and breathe so you could pay attention at work. Oh, you only care about work. Like, it's always a back and forth. You only care about work. You don't care about your employees.
Yeah,
I do. That's why I want you to just breathe.
exactly. That's probably why we're having this conversation, right?
Yes, because you're holding your breath your whole life. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It has to do a
yeah,
lot with culture. I don't see a lot of that in Holland, I must say, where people are like, "It's because you're attacking me." I'm just like, no. I mean, that's not really the point here. That doesn't. I don't think that's ever happened to me. No.
yeah. And this there's a culture of like, this, like, people are spending a lot of too much time on social media. So let's, right? Because it's skewing what reality is,
Yeah.
right? There's they call it programming and television programs for a reason,
Yeah.
right? And so we get to look at, like, well, what are we programming ourselves with? Like, faith comes by hearing, right? That's the Bible, and the Bible says, right? Faith comes by hearing, and but that also, like, if you're hearing positive things,
Yeah.
also you're hearing negative things, right? So now you're believing in something that's not true or negative because you listen to it. It's the repetition of it,
Yeah.
right? So what are we feeding ourselves? Who are you around,
Exactly. Yeah. And
right?
it's way more easy to fixate on the negative. 1,000 people
Yeah,
might tell you something good, and like five people might tell you something negative, and you might stay awake because of that five people.
yeah. And not thinking like, yeah, but she complimented my earrings. She thought I did a really good job on that report. She really loved my presentation.
Yeah.
She was like, my mannerisms are awesome, right? But someone says, like, what kind of shoes are those? And you're like, what? My mom gave me these shoes.
Yeah. Now you're done.
Now it's over. You don't
Yeah.
want to go back to work anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I don't know why, but to me, it's very hard to get offended. A lot of things are like these. I don't hold attachment to my shoes. I like them. If you think they're ugly, I'll allow it. It's not an attack on my style or my sense of shoe. Do I really care about what you think about my shoes? It's weird in a way. Yet when there is something and I don't have a good example, sometimes it does bother me or it sticks with me. Where I have an altercation with someone, oh, it's a mic bump. When I'm having an altercation with someone and they completely flip out, I will reflect and be like, did I do something wrong? Or was it something I said? Or was it my intonation? Was it, I mean, again, something I said? I don't know what otherwise it would be. Was it the way I came across? Um, I would never think, oh, it's them or they're not in a good place or it was a Friday afternoon and they were just fed up or they had something personal going on. In that way, I will very much go inward and reflect it to what I did because that I have control over.
Mhm, mhm,
It's still
mhm.
not a
You know,
personal attack, though.
people are looking to be offended, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people aren't. like you said, like people aren't looking to be complimented. I pull down compliments like rebounds.
I love
Like
that.
it wasn't even meant to be a compliment. I take it as a compliment. Like
I love that.
they'd be like, "Oh, you getting a little thick in the thighs." I'd be like, "Oh, thank you." Like
I really
I
like
think
that. Uh,
I think everything is a compliment. And like my friend like that wasn't a compliment. I'm like, it wasn't.
yeah,
Or like when your friends are like, "Oh, you've changed." I'll be like, "Thank you. I've really been working at it." They're like, "No, they didn't. They didn't mean it."
I'm
Like,
so
like how you're
confused. You're confusing everyone. They're probably happier because of it, though. Yeah,
yeah. Thank you. I've been working on changing. Like, I want to be a different me. Like, but people are like, yeah, you miss you miss you miss that. Yeah. I'm not looking to be offended,
yeah,
you know? I don't want to be offended,
exactly.
you know.
I think if everyone
I'm
had that attitude, people would be a lot happier. Because I think, again, it comes back to the social part. If you give someone a compliment, not only will they feel a lot happier, you'll feel a lot happier as well. You're going to get a smile in response. You're going to make someone's day. If everyone does that, I think the world probably will get a bit better because of that.
Yeah, my sister and we talk in like chasing, right? Like
Mm,
what we're chasing. Like so my sister's like, finishing up her degree. So she's like, I'm chasing completion. Like I'm chasing completion, right? Like when I'm out, like I'm chasing hills, like depending on what, my work, like I'm looking for every hill. I want it to be hard. I'm chasing hills,
yeah,
right? Or sometimes, I'm chasing the shade, right? So I'll let the path of where the shade is take me, or I'm
yeah,
chasing rainbows, I'm chasing compliments, I'm chasing giving. Like we speak in this, like, what are you chasing today,
yeah,
right? Like, and but for my sister, for these last, she's like, every day you talk to her, I'm chasing completion, right? So we get to chase consistency. So what do you want to consistently have? What do you want to consistently be? Consistently, how do you want to show up, right? And so if you want to be angry, bitter person,
yeah,
okay, that's what you chase, right? But I don't want that. I want to walk into the room and people feel like I'm the answer to their prayers. I want to walk into a room and people feel like this, whatever that is, whatever she's having, I'll have that. Like
exactly.
that is what I want people to feel, even without, talking to me. Just when I walk in, they just feel that there's something different about me. Um, and I want that for people. I want people to be drawn to the goodness in me and the kindness of me and the fruits of the spirits, right? And my patience, my joy, right? I want that to attract and then to be able for me to properly leverage that in the best ways, right? Whether I'm reflecting it back on you, whether I'm reflecting it back on systems and policies and procedures or relationships, right? Like we get to like take it in and hold it and stir it up and then give it back even better than how I received it.
Yeah, yeah, that's something worth chasing. That's what it sounds like to
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I really love this conversation, Nyota. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Is there anything you still want to share?
Just know that, like, and I think you said it, like, we are first cause, like, we are the reason for our joy. We're the reason for our sadness. We're the reason for resilient networks. We're the reason for non resilient networks, right?
Exactly.
Like, we are the reason, right?
Yeah, and we're in control. So
Yeah.
choose how you want to act, choose how you want to be, and you'll be like that as
Decide.
well. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Decide. Decide to be resilient. Decide to be kind. Decide.
Yeah. I love that. We're getting ended off on that one. Nyota Gordon, everyone. I'm gonna put all the links to her socials in the description below. And thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.